Today on the London Ear, I'm chatting to a new mass crusader. I hear the laughs. Cloud from Pinnock Hill. Hello, how are
Hello,
you?
hello. How are you? Nice to meet you.
You
How are you?
too, you too. Now, for our friends who are watching this on YouTube,
Yeah.
they will have already seen. As we chat now on Zoom, you are wearing the same headphones, actually, I think, as I am, and the nice
I think we have the
Sennheisers
same.
$270s.
Steinheiser's
Is it the $270s? I
Stein
think it is, or the $280s?
three
And
350 or something like
something like
that.
that.
I don't
They
know what
look
they
similar.
are.
They look
Something
similar.
like that. Exactly, yeah.
You have a baseball cap on. We won't say anything about the New York Yankees because I'm a San Francisco Giants fan. But
To
you,
be honest, I just found it in the box, so
oh, there you
that
go.
one, that's all right.
And it's part of the disguise. And you also
Partly, yeah.
have a scarf over your face.
Yeah, I've kind of fashioned this sort of bandana that I found as well. It's
So
quite a nice one, actually. I'm quite a fan of
yeah,
this one.
it's not bad. It's not bad. So tell us why are you covering your identity?
I think. The main reason behind it and the main reason why I kind of started this project kind of with it being anonymous is because I think nowadays a lot of musicians that I know and a lot of artists just they spend so much time on social media and on your image, and I suppose it's probably always been the image has always been a thing in music, like it's always been an important thing, which fair enough, but especially with social media. People are spending more time worrying about that and worrying about followers, and then than the music itself. And unfortunately, as well, that it's become a point where that's also been a lot of the judgment of your success. Like if you have a big following, a lot of people are getting a record deal because they have a big following rather than having good songs or even having like a catalog of music. It's people that have a couple of songs out but a big following on social media, and they kind of get a little bit further than other people. But at the end of the day, I mean, the main thing for me really is just that I think it should just be about the music. I don't really care. It's not really about me. It's not about the music. Or sorry, it is about the music. It's not about me being cool or being perceived as being cool or what I do or my image or whatever. I just want people to listen to the songs if they like them, cool. If they don't, no worries. That's all that matters really at the end of the day.
I was actually on TikTok earlier today, and yeah, the Chinese government know everything about me, but I was really intrigued by a band that they I can't remember, Bear something they were called, but they put up a post about how they were offered a deal by a major
Yeah,
record label, and the record label said that they wanted 80% of everything that the band made to get.
that's mental, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
And the band said, well, we'll talk to you. Come over and we'll go to a gig and see what the story is. And we'll put on a gig and we'll put on a showcase for you and all that kind of stuff. And the record company cancelled because someone was going on holiday. And this
yeah.
went on for over a year. And then the record company suddenly changed their mind about going to see them live and said, right, this is the deal. Either you're taking it or not. Hadn't seen them from what I can gather.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, are you going to do it? Here's our deal. Do you want it or not? And the guys were like, no, we'll go on our own. Thanks very much. You might
That's
have a
fine. But they never even saw them live, Ren.
no. It's like you might have a
That's all right.
marketing budget, which
Yeah,
is I think that's what most artists would love right now is a marketing
yeah.
budget more than a record label.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, I have a couple of mates that are in music. I won't name any names or anything, but a couple of lads that have essentially just like set up a business and they've got like a business loan out. And that's how they're like marketing, how they're PR or how they're working it and how they're getting from A to B. And I think it's the smart way to do it because you own everything yourself. You're just looking after yourself. Your number one interest, record labels nowadays, I don't know, like there's obviously a lot of positives to it as well. But as you're saying, like that's an 80-20 split, which is crazy. I've heard like the best deals you can get are basically well, probably around that. Like with the big four, you're getting about 18%, I heard, for any big artist, which is crazy to think. that like some of the biggest artists in the world will be getting a deal with that little percentage of their own music. And at the end of the day, a record deal is just a loan. You have to pay it back. So like you don't even get that 20% until you pay that loan back. So yeah, I don't know. And I just feel like nowadays, especially if you're getting a record deal or if you're like following, that's a tough loan to pay back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People are really only making money nowadays from touring and maybe selling some vinyl merch. But yeah, if you don't have like a big catalog, a lot of music coming out, I don't know how you're gonna pay that back.
As a new artist, how do you feel about the Patreon method, shall we say, where some artists will, give people maybe a new track or a couple of new tracks a month,
Yeah.
unreleased stuff for like a subscription, for, basically.
Yeah, it's cool. Like it's a good idea and it like it kind of creates a bit of a fan base that like can be anywhere in the world as well. Um and I think everybody likes the idea of, what's it, buy me a coffee or something once a month. And it can be huge for young artists and for new artists coming out, just having that. It might cover your rent if you've got loads of people. There might just be that extra bit of cash that you need to keep going, that maybe you don't have to be full time in a bar at the same time. You can be part time and until you kind of get the ball rolling a little bit more. But it definitely actually is something I was thinking about myself. I need to kind of set up to do it that way because it makes a little bit more sense. People are gonna tap in and I think also it does build that kind of following as well a little bit more when people like start to actually like invest in you. Do you know what I mean? Even if it's only £2 a month.
Now, I'm not going to
So.
ask you to reveal your identity or anything like that, but have you been involved in the music industry before this project?
I have, yeah. Yeah, I've been in a while now, yeah. So I've worked as a producer and worked as an engineer. So I've worked in London quite a bit. What best part of 4 or 5 years now. But yeah, it's been like interesting, kind of an interesting road so far on that side of things, kind of like in the shadows a little bit more than being an artist. It's been cool. I've worked with some amazing artists and all that, but it's a tough game. It's a tough game at the same time, especially producing and songwriting can be tough. And yeah, you're not always working with the same artist or the same level of artist all the time, which is hard. Engineering's kind of the reason I got into engineering is because you can kind of guarantee yourself a bit more of a paycheck. You can kind of get a good session for like 2 months or 6 weeks in the studio, so it's a little bit more steady. Um, but yeah. It's good. It's not the easiest world to navigate, but I think once you're in it, it's amazing. To be fair, like being in the music world, it's nothing like it. Well, I don't think there is. Maybe there is, but I don't think there is.
Um, so you're based then between Ireland and London,
Yeah,
and when I first heard Mugraw, your first single, your debut single,
yeah,
um, it was really, really refreshing to hear the little coupla focal thrown in there, but still,
yeah,
like you're talking about places in London that we pass all the time,
yeah.
and
That was cool.
that's really refreshing.
Yeah, I don't know what made me do that. I think whenever I'm writing a song. I don't have a weird way. Like I've got loads of mates that will sit down and they'll write poetry and they're really like they have a system to it and it's actually really nice to see. I have never been able to do that. I'll be walking out in a forest somewhere and the first verse will just pop into my head and I'll sing it into my voice memos and I'll go back home and record it. And yeah, I don't know, I just thought McGraw just fit in perfectly there. And then the whole song kind of came together with that because it was just a verse, and then everything kind of just came together, and the chorus came, and all the main guitar parts came. But yeah, I like that. It's nice to have a little sprinkle of Irish over old London.
It's
Nice.
like I'm not a huge trad fan or anything like it,
Yeah.
and what I found really refreshing is that there's people, let's say, like yourself and like Kneecap and other artists as well, who are, just giving a little splattering of Irishness and what Irishness means to those people. and going out into the world and doing their own thing. When
Mm.
this is the modern world, this is what I think is really important and really interesting about this is like the Irishness to me anyway isn't all that diddly eye stuff. It's
No,
not
yeah.
like.
It's something that like I've been kind of I've not I wouldn't say passionate about, but something that I've been really well, I've just been thinking about it now for a long time. And I was also with like you were saying there about trad music, like I was looking at when you look at like Afro beats and you look at like reggaeton and certain types of like rumba in Spain, like they're using traditional styles of flamenco and African dance and percussion and whatever. I mean, between the three of them. But like we don't really do that so much. Like we don't take like say the Bower and put it in like a punk song. We do have like modern, like you think of Lancome and stuff like that, where it's kind of modernized trad music, but we don't really have that crossover of like using our traditional instruments in a really modern way. So I think that's something that I definitely want to like incorporate into Pinnock and into the kind of musical sense to it. But I think it kind of, like you're saying with Kneecap and a few other bands, that I think it is, it's just kind of making it like almost normalizing it a little bit more because it seems that, I don't know, well, I don't know, for me anyway, there is a bit of it like anything that's Irish is fiddly diddly, and like it shouldn't be. Like it's it can be as modern as anything else. It is. Do you know what I mean? So I think our perception, or not just our perception, but other people's perception of what traditional Irish is, well, it is slowly changing, but I think we're modernizing it. But also, like I say that with caution because I know there's people that would be like, wait, you can't ruin the traditional sense of it, but that's not the intention. It's just to add a little, just to bring it up a little bit, I think, more than anything, you know.
I'm delighted to have Pinnock Hill, Cloud from Pinnock Hill, here with me. Hello, Cloud. How are you?
Hello,
The
hello.
Masked Crusader.
Very good.
How do you describe your music? Because there's different elements in there, and it's really melodic at the same time. Do you know what I mean? There's a good melody in
Yeah.
there, and there's like little bits of hip hop and spoken word and whatever.
Yeah,
Maybe a little
I
post punk in
struggle I
there as
struggle with
well.
that. I don't know. I struggle with trying to, like, I have a distribution company, and they were before I release it, you have to put up what genre you think it's in. Um, and I was on to your man. I was like, I don't know what genre. I can't put it into one genre. Like, I'm not sure what one it would fit into. But I suppose the a lot of the inspiration, well, it comes from so many things. Like I love Nirvana, but I don't even know if you can hear Nirvana in that song. But then there's so much. I think some of it is like post-punk. It's kind of indie rock. It's kind of alternative. There is definitely some like hip hop elements, R&B elements added in. Um, yeah, I don't. I think the only way to describe it is that's just like all of my influences or all the music that I'll be listening to, just like thrown into a big mixing pot and just stirred around, and that's what pops out when you put my brain on top of it as well. But then the next songs, the other song, like the next single, 1992, is like I think it's harder than McGraw. It's not as melodic, and it's got a much stronger meaning to it. Um, and yeah, then the next few songs that are coming out are all kind of individual in their own sense. So it's kind of jumping. I think there is definitely a sound to it overall, but it's definitely flirting with different genres throughout.
I think your
Can't
vocal
nail it on one.
style helps kind of glue everything together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's the one thing that's kind of keeping it, even if if one's is kind of slow. Because like the fourth song that's coming out in June, that's an acoustic song. So it's kind of two chords, acoustic track. But yeah, I think the vocals are the one thing that like is really sticking that to the rest because it's kind of slower and it's acoustic. And then the third song, which is actually it should be coming out at the end of May as well. I'm kind of gone a bit mad on, on bringing out the songs, but the third song is a bit of a mentler to be honest. So again, it's kind of heavier than the other two. But again, I think you're right. It is the lyrics and the vocals that are kind of gluing it together, kind of sticking it all together.
When you are a new artist and this is a new project,
Yeah.
like you kind of have to get the music out there to keep
Yeah,
people interested. It's a really tough
absolutely. Yeah.
time, like for
Yeah.
artists. You think that, oh, it's really exciting, you have a new single out and whatever, but you want that level to be sustained. You want that level of interest to
Absolutely.
be sustained. So, in order to do that, you have to keep firing out the music. So, that means you almost have to plan, even if you're like 17 now, if you want to get your
Yeah.
music out there, you have to plan well in advance what you want to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. You have to have it ready to go. Like, for instance, I wanted to release an album. Like, so I had about 12 tracks like ready to go. So I produced and mixed everything myself. And then I started mastering them, and then I wanted to release them, and I said to the distribution company, and they basically said no, because I didn't know if you release an album, they can only pitch, I think it's one or two songs from the album to the playlist people in Spotify and whatnot. So you kind of lose the benefit of having 12 songs. So they're like, you already have them, just release one a month for whatever, release six, see how it goes, and then release another few. So that was kind of like what I ended up doing, or it is what I've ended up doing. Because, like, as you say, when you're a new artist, it's cool having a single and all, but people don't like. I think in some people's head, they think, oh, I'm gonna flood it. Like, I'm gonna give people too much music, and they'll be like, oh, no, kind of, I'm tired of this now. But really, like, I suppose, especially with this, the first two songs are under 2 minutes long, and people hear it, they like it. The next one's coming out soon. I think it's the best way to do it to keep the hype going, keep the train going, got more music, more stuff people listen to. And then also the thing for me, and this could be a controversial thing, but I have this thing in my head where the gigs are gonna come. Like I'm gonna start playing gigs probably midsummer, but I want people to have heard some of the music at least and know what they're getting. Like like what's it, in 2 weeks, 1992 will come out. And like a few of the lads that I play with, like they were asking like when we're gonna do gigs, and I was like, I just don't want to do a gig where people are coming and listening to 10 songs that they've never heard of. Do you know what I mean? I think it's good just to get a few songs out, get them out quick. People will like it or they won't. Doesn't matter. And then start doing gigs and building it up that way, building it up more naturally. So you have like a kind of more of a following that actually want to hear you, that are interested in hearing it.
I was doing this thing on Coursera for some reason, something to keep me occupied one evening or two evenings
Yeah.
last week. But it was all about the music of the Beatles. And it was
Yeah.
actually quite interesting. And this guy was going through everything. And I would know the Beatles, but there's so much like very, very nerdy stuff you can get into about the Beatles as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Some people
one,
go mad.
yeah, exactly. And that covers some of that in this, which is a little bit, maybe too much for my little Beatles ears. Um, but one of the things that I found really, really interesting was when they were releasing the albums and when the record labels were releasing the albums. So they had the record label in the UK. And then they went to the States and they were releasing music. And some of the music was released on one label, some of it was released on another label, the early singles, and then, whoever had the rights. But they didn't, the American labels thought different of how the records should be released. So some of the records, some of the albums were released, the early albums were released with maybe 2 songs or 3 songs shorter. And then they were kept back for the
Oh, really?
next. So
Yeah.
the way it was like basically not re yeah, I suppose reusing when those those pieces of music hadn't been released to the American public. It was
Mm.
basically, as it was going on, they were compiling another record that they could get out there and sell to the public.
It's funny that, isn't it? And I feel like that, yeah. Like, do you think that? And I'm sure, like, oh, maybe, but like, they're probably picking. It's not like they're picking the worst songs from the album. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I think that, like, it's kind of the same nowadays when you're a new artist. Like, the biggest thing when you're doing, they have a name for it, this type of release, and I can't remember what it is, but um, like, in what order do you release your songs? Do you know what I mean? Because you'd assume, oh, well, the first one has to be your single, like. But then after talking to some people, they're like, oh no, but you probably won't get a playlist renting for your first one. And then you're like, all right, so your second one, they're like, no, no, you probably won't get a playlist realistically until maybe your fifth or sixth one. So then you're like, right, so whatever I perceive to be my best song, maybe isn't coming out until the sixth track. Do you know what I mean? Well, it's all just mad. Because then at the same time with these songs, like they're all kind of written as an album. So like, but they're not being released in like album order. Do you know what I mean? So none of it really makes any sense. But sure, look, what can we do? We just have to make the best of it at the end of the day. Hopefully, we get like the Beatles in America if we're lucky.
There you go, filling out those stadiums. Um, it,
John and Yoko over here.
it's been lovely to get to know you a little bit and to catch up with you. And find out what you're up to. And I love the concept of what you're doing. And I
Thank you very
mean,
much. Really appreciate it.
speaking to you, you can see that you're really into your tunes, and it's a good job that your eyes are very expressive as well.
Thank God. Otherwise, you'd be talking to a blank canvas.
I was going to say maybe sometime soon in London we could meet up for a coffee, but I don't know how you're going to get a coffee through the bandana there.
Oh, we could do a coffee. I could wear the balaclava and have a straw.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. I'll let you know when I'm back over. I'll be
Listen,
back over probably next week anyway.
cool. Listen, if people want
Yeah.
to find out, well, relatively more
Relatively, yeah.
details
Well,
about you.
there is an Instagram, Pinnock with three L's, because somebody took Pinnock with two L's. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't really post that much on it, but I probably will. Like I'll be putting up, like the pre-save link for 1992 and yeah, like the next song which will be coming out at the end of May. I'll be putting up that one, and I will start putting up a little bit on social media just to make it a little bit more interesting than just a blank wall. But yeah, it's there, and then I suppose there I'm gonna have to be start. I'll be posting. We'll have a gig. We're kind of thinking about doing We're gonna do two gigs in London, probably midsummer. Um, and it hasn't been confirmed yet. We've been chatting to the venue, but we're thinking about doing. It's a bit mad about doing a kind of jazz acoustic version of all the tracks. So yet to be confirmed, but that could be quite cool. And then we'll do a full blown version. We haven't found a venue for that one yet, but we will at some point, probably nearly August, probably in London. So, but anyway, yeah, I suppose go to Instagram and we'll find out over on Instagram.
Excellent stuff. Listen, thank you so much. And one last thing, never
Thank you
mind
very much.
who is Pinnock Hill. Where is Pinnock Hill?
Swords, it's the roundabout in Swords. It's where I grew up.
Grant. Won't
Yeah,
ask
yeah.
anymore. Listen, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.